The Japanese characters on the contract glowed under the chandelier light, and Chen knew with absolute certainty that if someone didn't intervene in the next 60 seconds, $200 million would walk out of Aurelius permanently and take her rent money with it. 6 hours earlier, Aurelius occupied the entire top floor of Chicago's Vista Tower, where the reservation list stretched 14 months into the future, and a single dinner cost what most families spent on groceries in 3 months. The dining room was a study in controlled opulence. Hand-carved walnut panels from sustainably harvested German forests, baccarat crystal chandeliers, throwing prismatic light across tables draped in Irish linen, and windows offering a view of Lake Michigan that seemed to render the city itself irrelevant. The silence here wasn't absence of sound, but its careful curation. The clink of Christoffel silverware, the whisper of sommeliers pouring Grand Cru Burgundy, the murmured negotiations of people for whom money was merely a method of keeping score. Chen moved through this world like a shadow, her 27-year-old frame encased in the restaurant's rigid uniform. White button-down shirt with military precision, black vest that felt like armor, black trousers with creases sharp enough to cut, and leather shoes polished to reflect the faces of people who never looked at hers. Her black hair was scraped into a bun so tight it pulled at her temples, revealing the premature lines that exhaustion had carved around eyes that had once sparkled with academic ambition. Her hands, steady from years of practice, carried a tray of Chateau d'Yquem at $450 per glass without the slightest tremor, despite the fact that she'd been standing for 9 hours and would stand for 6 more. 3 years ago, had been finishing her master's degree in East Asian Studies at Northwestern University, specializing in Japanese business culture and translation, fluent in Japanese, Mandarin, and Korean, positioned for a fellowship at Tokyo University that would have launched her into international diplomacy or corporate consulting. Then her father's stroke had rewritten everything. The medical bills, $287,000 for emergency surgery, intensive rehabilitation, and ongoing care, had devoured their family's savings in 4 months. Her younger brother was still in high school. Her mother worked double shifts as a nurse, but couldn't cover it all. Had withdrawn from Northwestern 1 semester before graduation, sold her car and laptop, and found herself here, invisible among the visible wealthy, refilling water glasses for people who spent her monthly salary on wine without glancing at the price. Tonight, Table 12 hosted Richard Hartwell, CEO and primary shareholder of Hartwell Dynamics, a defense contracting corporation valued at $3.2 billion. Hartwell himself possessed a personal net worth of $890 million according to the most recent Bloomberg estimates. At 54, he projected the aggressive confidence of old money merged with new. Silver hair styled with precision, a bespoke Tom Ford suit in charcoal gray that had been fitted in London, and a Patek Philippe Grand Complications watch worth $280,000 glinting on his wrist. He sat across from Takashi Yamamoto, CEO of Yamamoto Industrial Solutions, a Tokyo-based manufacturing empire. Hartwell had been courting for 18 months for a joint venture in advanced robotics manufacturing. The deal, if it closed, would be worth $200 million over 5 years. Maya knew this because she'd overheard Hartwell explaining it loudly to his attorney earlier, his voice carrying that particular American assumption that volume equaled authority. The problem had become apparent 20 minutes into dinner. Yamamoto's English was functional but limited. Hartwell spoke no Japanese. Hartwell's attorney had hired a translator, a nervous young man in an ill-fitting suit who'd arrived late and was currently butchering technical terminology with increasing desperation. Maya watched from her station as the translator stumbled through an explanation of intellectual property licensing agreements, rendering it in Japanese as something closer to smart ownership paper promises, based on Yamamoto's increasingly confused expression. Yamamoto's face remained diplomatically neutral, but Maya recognized the subtle signs, the slight tightening around his eyes, the way his fingers had stopped moving on the table, the microscopic shift backward in his chair. These were the markers of a Japanese businessman preparing to politely extract himself from a situation that had become unworkable. The translator was now attempting to explain phased capital investment structure and failing catastrophically. Hartwell's expression had progressed from confidence to irritation. His attorney looked stricken. Yamamoto said something in rapid, polite Japanese that the translator clearly didn't understand, responding with a confused pause before offering a guess that was obviously wrong based on Yamamoto's reaction. Maya stood at her station, hands clasped behind her back, watching a $200 million deal dissolve because of incompetent translation. She should have stayed silent. Should have remained invisible. Should have remembered that waitresses who spoke out of turn got fired, and she couldn't afford to lose this job. But she watched Yamamoto's expression close off completely, watched him reach for his napkin in the preparatory gesture of someone about to excuse himself, and something inside her, pride, maybe, or desperation, or the ghost of who she'd been before medical debt, had redefined her, made her step forward. Maya's voice cut through the tension with surgical precision. "Excuse me, Mr. Hartwell. I apologize for the interruption, but I speak fluent Japanese. If it would be helpful, I could assist with the translation." The table went silent. Hartwell's eyes snapped to her with the startled focus of someone noticing furniture had suddenly developed consciousness. His attorney's mouth fell open. The hired translator looked simultaneously relieved and offended. Yamamoto's expression shifted to polite curiosity, though his hand remained on his napkin, ready to leave. "You?" Hartwell's voice was flat, skeptical. "You speak Japanese?" "Yes, sir. I have a master's-level education in East Asian Studies from Northwestern, specializing in Japanese business culture and technical translation. I'm fluent in business Japanese, including technical and legal terminology." Hartwell exchanged glances with his attorney, whose expression suggested this was either the most fortuitous accident or an elaborate hallucination brought on by expensive wine. The hired translator started to protest, but Hartwell held up one hand. "All right," Hartwell said slowly, his tone carrying the weight of a man accustomed to testing claims. "Translate this." He spoke deliberately. "Tell Mr. Yamamoto that Hartwell Dynamics is prepared to establish a joint venture for advanced robotics manufacturing, with phased capital investment of $200 million over 5 years, contingent on successful completion of prototype testing and intellectual property protection agreements that satisfied both American and Japanese regulatory frameworks." It was a complex sentence designed to trip up anyone with superficial language skills, multilayered technical terminology, legal concepts, specific numerical data, and implicit cultural navigation required in the phrasing. The hired translator looked panicked. Hartwell watched Maya with the expression of someone expecting entertainment from imminent failure. Maya turned to Yamamoto and bowed with the precise 15-degree angle appropriate for business contexts. When she spoke, her voice transformed completely, the exhausted Chicago accent vanishing, replaced by formal business Japanese pitched in the Kigo register required when addressing a CEO. "Sanbiam, Wunanjang Don Jiadan Evin Tengo Shi, Tisadona Chingoto, and a Guicher Glajumi, Elidadadridath, a Taichan Bafo, Tianadija Ajanto, Siterity must." Yamamoto's entire demeanor changed. His posture straightened, the tension in his shoulders released, and for the first time that evening, he smiled, a genuine expression of relief. He responded in rapid Japanese, his words tumbling out with the fluency of someone finally able to communicate properly. Maya listened carefully, then turned to Hartwell. "Mr. Yamamoto says he's very pleased to hear this properly explained. He has 3 specific questions. First, regarding the timeline for prototype development and testing phases. Second, about the governance structure of the joint venture and decision-making authority distribution. And third, concerning the technology transfer protocols and how proprietary innovations will be classified and protected under both countries' patent systems." Hartwell's skepticism had evaporated, replaced by focused attention. "Tell him." He launched into detailed responses, and for the next 15 minutes, Maya stood between the two men, translating increasingly complex technical and legal dialogue with a precision that transformed the floundering negotiation into productive conversation. She navigated Japanese business etiquette seamlessly, knowing when to use humble verb forms, when to add appropriate honorifics, when to soften Hartwell's occasionally blunt American phrasing into the indirect suggestions Japanese business culture preferred. She translated technical terms, servo actuators, AI-assisted quality control, systems, liability indemnification clauses, with accuracy that made both men nod in recognition. When Yamamoto made a subtle joke about Chicago winters compared to Tokyo, She rendered it in English with the cultural context that made Hartwell laugh genuinely. The hired translator had slumped in his chair, forgotten. Hartwell's attorney was frantically taking notes. Other diners had noticed the unusual scene, conversations quieting as they watched a waitress conduct a 9-figure business negotiation. Yamamoto sat back finally, his expression satisfied. He spoke to Maya in Japanese, his tone warm. Kono nthanayenga na? Kono ribaru no fanijurga Waitress itosite domi te iranowa. America no jowing thima no beijades. Maya's professional composure flickered for a microsecond. Yamamoto had just said it was a tragedy that a translator of her caliber was working as a waitress, but she recovered and translated neutrally. Mr. Yamamoto says he's pleased with how the conversation has progressed and would like to continue discussions tomorrow at your office. Hartwell beamed. Excellent. Yes, tomorrow at 10. He turned to Maya, really looking at her for the first time. What's her name? Maya-chan, sir. Maya-chan. Hartwell's mind was visibly working, recalculating. Northwestern, you said? Master's degree. I didn't complete it, sir. I withdrew 1 semester before graduation. Why? The question hung in the air. Maya could have deflected, could have given a vague answer, but 3 years of invisibility had taught her that honesty was a luxury reserved for people with nothing left to lose. My father had a severe stroke. The medical bills were $287,000. My family needed help. I made a choice. The table went absolutely silent. Yamamoto, understanding enough English to catch the gist, looked stricken. Hartwell's attorney stared at his notepad. Even the hired translator looked moved. Hartwell stood abruptly, reaching into his jacket. Hartwell pulled out his phone and began typing with sharp, decisive movements. What's your bank information? His voice had lost its testing edge, replaced by something urgent and businesslike. Maya stood frozen. Sir, I don't. Your bank information. Routing number, account number. Now. Hartwell's tone was commanding, but not cruel. I'm transferring $300,000 to cover your father's medical debt and your living expenses while you complete your degree. He looked up from his phone. This is not charity. You just saved a $200 million deal that was 30 seconds from collapse because I was too cheap to hire a competent translator. Consider it a consulting fee. Maya's hands trembled. Around them, the restaurant had gone completely silent, every diner watching. Mr. Hartwell, I can't accept. You can, and you will. Yamamoto spoke in careful English, then switched to Japanese, directing his words to Maya. Chen-san. Kono yo natsu wo nishite wa ikemasa. So get your deck kudasai. Soshite, mush shingwe ga araba poiser de moribunto, America no jakachato natafankans te masu. He handed her a business card, then added in English. My company also need translator. Cultural consultant. If you interested. Hartwell's attorney cleared his throat. Richard, if you're making offers, Hartwell Dynamics could also use someone of Miss Chen's capabilities. Our international division. No. Hartwell cut him off, but his eyes remained on Maya. I'm not offering her a job in our international division. I'm offering her a position as Senior Director of Asian Business Development. $180,000 base salary, full benefits, stock options, and tuition reimbursement to complete your master's degree. You'd work directly with me on all Asian partnerships. He paused. If you want it. I understand if you prefer Mr. Yamamoto's offer, or if you'd rather finish your degree first and never see any of us again. Maya held 2 business cards now. Yamamoto's and one Hartwell's attorney had produced, along with her water pitcher, 3 possible futures made tangible. Her mind raced through calculations. Her father's rehabilitation costs, her brother's college fund, the Northwestern degree she'd abandoned, the life she'd put on hold. The head waiter, Marcus, appeared beside her and spoke quietly. Maya, whatever you choose, your shift is over. Go. We'll handle your tables. She set down the water pitcher on the white tablecloth with trembling hands. When she spoke, her voice was stronger than it had been all evening. Mr. Hartwell, I'll accept your payment for my father's medical care because pride is a luxury my family can't afford, and he deserves proper rehabilitation. I cannot thank you enough for that. She paused, choosing her words carefully. For employment, I'd like to request something different. Hartwell's eyebrows rose. Which is? Allow me to finish my master's degree at Northwestern. 1 semester, full-time. Then I'll accept your position as Senior Director of Asian Business Development, if the offer still stands. But I need to complete what I started. Not for the credential, but because I need to prove to myself that medical debt doesn't get to steal my entire future." Hartwell studied her for a long moment, then smiled. A genuine expression, not the corporate mask he'd worn earlier. "Deal. We'll formalize it tomorrow. Finish your degree. The position will be waiting." He extended his hand, and Maya shook it, feeling the surreal shift from invisible server to valued professional in a single gesture. Yamamoto stood and bowed to Maya with deep respect. "Chen-san, itsuka nilershua, zihyuan loshite kudasai. Anata no yo najakachau ga, mopt to be Aldis. If you ever come to Japan, please contact me. We need more bridges like you. Arigatou gozaimasu. Gamrim desu." "Thank you, Mr. Yamamoto. It's an honor." The restaurant erupted in spontaneous applause. Diners who'd witnessed the entire drama now celebrating its resolution. Maya felt heat rise to her cheeks, overwhelmed by the sudden visibility after 3 years of being deliberately unseen. She walked out of Aurelius at 10:23 p.m., 5 hours before her shift was supposed to end. In her pocket, 2 business cards, a phone showing a wire transfer notification that would change her family's life, and proof of something she'd almost forgotten. That competence and skill could still matter. That one moment of courage could rewrite a future. That being invisible was a choice others made, but didn't have to define her. 3 months later, Maya Chen walked across the stage at Northwestern's commencement ceremony, master's degree finally in hand. In the audience, her father, recovered enough to attend in his wheelchair, her mother crying proud tears, her brother cheering embarrassingly loud. And in the back row, unexpectedly, Richard Hartwell, who'd flown from New York to see his future senior director graduate. The following Monday, Maya started at Hartwell Dynamics. Her first assignment, lead negotiations for the Yamamoto partnership's expansion into South Korea. Her office had windows overlooking Lake Michigan, the same view she'd served beneath for 3 years, but from a different floor entirely. She kept her Aurelius uniform in her closet, though, not as a reminder of hardship, but as proof of resilience. That sometimes the distance between invisible and invaluable is just one moment of speaking up when silence would have been safer, one choice to claim your worth when the world has decided you have none.